Hello again. I'm doing a small tutorial on how to use the GitHub Desktop app and like a workflow with that from using a repository that you have access to that already exists. It's already set up, just how to clone, edit, push, make branches and stuff like that. So let's go to the top left here. We can see our current repository and I can add a repository. Now I want to clone a repository. So cloning just copies the repository down. So if I've made a already created one. Where have I put it? It's in here somewhere. Demo. There you go. So I can press the little clone here. I can choose where it goes on my computer. I've got it in my GitHub folder. So I can press clone, and that will clone the repository. It automatically it doesn't automatically fetch. I can choose to fetch, and that brings down all the files in that repo. So I'm here in my standard GitHub UI, so I can show an Explorer, and I bring that over. I can show the files that are in that repo. I have a text file, a README, and the Git attributes folder. It's worth mentioning that your files in your GitHub repo are just files. You just edit them the same as you normally would. If you like going to that place in your file manager, clicking that file, and then opening it in whatever application, you can still do that. It's just a directory in your file structure. Access it as if you were writing any other code. You can even open in Visual Studio Code, which you can set up. So I can have Visual Studio Code here. I can edit the things in the file. So I want to create a branch because I'm working in a group and we can't all commit to master. That will be not good. I thought I should probably explain why it's not good to have everyone committing to master in a group. It's because you end up editing the same stuff. You will end up with a file that multiple people are editing, and then one person will do their commit and change one thing, and then one person will do their commit and change another thing that's linked to that thing. So it ends up breaking a lot more. With having branches, you can check when merging in that everything is going to work. It allows easier testing and allows much more effect. So I can go to current branch, making sure that I fetch the origin. You don't want any little need to pull things there. You need to make sure you're on the latest version of the master branch or the main branch in the new PC world we live in. So I want to create a new branch. Let's call it a name. Let's call it new branch 1. New branch 1. Now, obviously, you'd choose a better name. Describe what you're doing. If you're like adding a feature, give it the feature name. Is what I always like to do. So I create my new branch, and it's not published yet. But let's make a change to that branch. Let's open in Visual Studio Code, or we could go through the Explorer if we want to do it that way, or we could open it in any other editor. It doesn't really matter as long as you edit the actual files. So let's go for demo1.txt. Let's add a line. Let's add the line 3. Save that. Close that down. You can see here there's been a change. You can see the change that's been made. You can change as many files as you want. So we need to have a little description. There's an automatically created one there, but you should always fill it out describing. So let's say I added line 3. Obviously doing that after every line is a silly way of doing it. I like to do that every time I've made a working version, so every time I've written some code and it now works, I like to do that. So the feature's not written, but that bit of the feature works. There's no crashing when I run the program. So I can commit to the new branch there, and that shows up in the little corner here of the application. So what that allows me to do is I can undo that commit if I wanted to, or I can send it up to GitHub. So if we choose to publish the branch, this branch is now on the GitHub repo. If you go onto GitHub, you can see the multiple branches of the project. Let's actually do that. I hadn't planned to do that, but it's a good idea. You can plug my GitHub here. So if we go into demo, as it says, little private repo, I can actually see the two branches, new branch and master. So if I swap back to GitHub Desktop, you can see that's there. And because I published it, the commit was already sent up with the publish. Let's make another change. So let's open in VS Code again, and let's add line 5. So we'll go here. No, we want to add line 5, and we'll add a new folder. Let's add a new demo text file. That's what I meant. Demo2.txt with line 1. Of course, that's 2 changes we've made. So I'm going to go into GitHub, and because they're 2 changes, normally you wouldn't do 2 commits for 2 tiny changes like this. But let's do that. I can unhighlight all, and I can choose to highlight just one, that little tick here, of the changes. So create demo2.txt. That's all I did. You can use that, so I can commit that, and that just commits that one file that we've changed. So then I can make another commit and call it update demo1, and in my description I'll go for added line 5. Added line 5. So I can commit that. So now you see we have 2 new changes. So we can push to the origin. So we press that, it does our little push, and it sends up the most recent version, or it sends up the changes that we've made. We could have only just pushed one of the changes if we wanted to. It just shows you the changes that you want up there in the corner. That's fine. So say our feature's now done. We've added our lines that we needed to do. That was our task for the week. Let's create a pull request. So you press that little button and it takes you over to GitHub. And so you can new branch 1. I added some code. Again, you need that to be a proper description. Let's leave a comment. It was fine. Obviously, a bit more descriptive. And so we can go down and create the pull request. And you can see it is able to merge. We won't go over merging commits today, but you just have to make sure that all the lines don't conflict with each other. And in some groups, that'll be someone else's job. Some jobs that'll be your job. In most of the time, it should be your job. You should make sure it works. But if you're my group watching, I'll do it for you. Just don't break anything. So I can choose to merge it. You probably can't, depending on how your group project is set up. Or if you're just doing it by yourself, then you can merge that. So we can merge it. So we can wait for someone to merge it, or we'll just merge it now. Let's confirm the merge. And now that's done, and we can delete that branch. So if we go back onto GitHub, that branch is still there, but we have to republish it again because that branch has disappeared. So we can go back to master, and always go back to master. You need to make sure that master is the most up-to-date version when committing code, because if your master gets out of date, you're using an old version of the project. So if you're working in a group and a bunch of other people are writing code, they could have added a bunch of new features and they could have been already merged into master, but they won't be merged into your version of the master until you fetch the origin. You need to fetch the origin. And fetching it gives you all the changes and adds it to your code. And what it actually does is it changes the code in your file area. It changes the version that you have. So let's create a new branch. Go here, new branch. Another one, create branch. Let's add some stuff. A bunch of random crap. Cool. So we go here, commit it. I won't bother making a message. Publish. Cool. But we now need to work on something else. So what we can do, and we don't want to merge it into master, it's not done. We can just switch branch. And now if we go back into our code, it's gone because we're on a different branch now. And if we want it back, we switch to that version. It's quite simple. GitHub Desktop is a really easy way of using it. Kind of wish it wasn't GitHub Desktop, it was just Git Desktop. So then you could use other Git things. I imagine it's possible to set it up that way. Probably open source. But yeah, that's GitHub Desktop standard little basic workflow for you. Just a quick video, you know? All right. Like and subscribe and